going to lose in November. And as we pointed out yesterday, guys, she is just the latest in the people supporting Donald Trump, some of them very close to Donald Trump, saying, you got to knock this off. You got to stop going out and posting wild conspiracy theories about crowd sizes, talking about her race and everything else, and focus on the issues. But as we know well, and everyone watching the show knows well, and everyone in the country at this point should know well, this is not a man who's going to change who he is and suddenly become a great policy wonk. This is who he is. Right. He's guided by his own grievance, and he's upset that Kamala Harris in this moment is getting the better of him.
And, you know, it's just a lot of times you've got politicians that have issues that won't work for them, right?
Right.
And so they try to distract and they try to do this and that. The weird thing about Republicans, and I've felt this way since Donald Trump got in power, I think most Americans agree with them on basic economic issues and on the border and on all these other issues. Unfortunately, they killed the border bill. But the thing is, if they argue the issues, they've got a better than even chance of winning. But they don't argue the issues. They just refuse to.
Well, some may be trying to, but then it comes back to the candidate himself, and he tends to talk about sizes of crowds or stomachs, and so it's sort of hard to campaign on that. As Nikki Haley said it herself, it's hard to campaign on negativity. With us, we have the host of Way Too Early, White House bureau chief at Politico, Jonathan Lemire, MSNBC contributor, Mike Barnicle, president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton, and managing editor at The Bulwark, Sam Stein, is with us this morning. So in an effort to blunt the momentum of Vice President Kamala Harris, Donald Trump is headed to North Carolina later today for a rally in Asheville that his campaign is touting as a significant economic address. It's been 16 years since a Democrat won the state. And it's 16 electoral votes when Barack Obama prevailed there in 2008. Trump won North Carolina in 2020 by less than 75,000 votes.
And Sam Stein, I mean, it's pretty simple math. When you look at these states, especially in the South, one of the reasons Georgia tipped first to Democrats the way it has to Senator, is because Atlanta is such a massive urban center, so big, and the suburbs, that actually the rural votes can come in overwhelmingly for Donald Trump, and it doesn't matter. North Carolina is moving in that direction, and people expect North Carolina eventually to tip Democratic as Charlotte and the other cities get bigger. You have a good-sized black vote. You have a good-sized educated vote there with all of the schools, and so North Carolina could tip, and I think most Democrats think maybe 4-8 years it's going to be solidly blue. But what you have with Donald Trump and just an absolutely radical Republican gubernatorial candidate is giving Democrats and the Harris campaign hope that they can take it this year like Barack Obama did once.
North Carolina's kind of been the stubborn, annoying little state, not little, pretty big state. Democrats have tried to get again and again. It's been fool's gold. Part of the reason is it's just hasn't had that same type of conversion that Georgia did. But for, the past couple of months, the Biden people, now the Harris people have looked at it and said, look, we have a real chance of flipping this. I think the fact that Trump is showing up there today is a real sign that they're nervous about the state. I think Joe hit it on the head. The fact that Mark Robinson's on the head of the gubernatorial ticket for Republicans, really a radical figure, all things considered, relative to other gubernatorial candidates on the Republican side. This could be the state that kind of under the radar Harris could flip, which makes her path to getting to 270 a lot easier. Suddenly, you don't have to be so preoccupied with Michigan or Wisconsin. Obviously, Pennsylvania is huge. You still need to have that one. But yeah, North Carolina is one of those under-the-radar targets for Harris.
It is, John, extraordinary, too, to think about where we were a month ago when Joe Biden was viewed as being the nominee, obviously, talking about states like Minnesota maybe going Republican, that they were going to lose Democratic strongholds. They were throwing out New Jersey, forget Nevada and Georgia and Arizona and all the other places that they had started to write off a little bit and thinking we have to win these 3 states. That dynamic has changed completely. Now we're talking about Georgia Arizona, Nevada, and maybe North Carolina now tipping in the direction of Kamala Harris. A total flip in the way we're sort of viewing the map at this point.
Here's how things changed. During the Republican National Convention, the Biden team put out a campaign memo that basically said our only path to victory was Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Yeah. That's the only way they could do it. At the same time, the Republicans gave a briefing to reporters at the convention saying North Carolina's in the bag. We're not even going to worry about that. What happened this week? Donald Trump showing up in North Carolina. What else happened this week? They put in an ad buy in North Carolina. So that shows you how they are now concerned about that state. Vice President Harris will also be in North Carolina this week. She'll be there Friday, Mike Barnicle. And interestingly, both of the candidates are using that state to talk about the economy. Trump is going to talk about it today, obviously complaints about inflation and deriding what they've seen from the Biden White House. And then Kamala Harris on Friday in Raleigh is going to defend the record of the economy and try to silence some people who think that's one of her vulnerabilities.
You know, to Willie's point, the sea change in American politics over just the past few weeks has been astounding. As you indicated, President Biden was supposed to be on the ballot 3 or 4 weeks ago, and all the numbers in every state were going the wrong way. Now it's completely flip-flopped, including North Carolina, which is now in contention. And I would submit there's one other element to be added to this conversation. I think there's going to be another sea change after the first debate that occurs between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. When a black woman in the ring cuffs him around, which she will, I think he will go bananas in public, and that will change everything.
No, I agree with you. I think that the fact that this black woman is going to be standing there equal to him is already unnerving him. But for her to be able to prosecute the case, when a few days later he has to actually go to a sentencing for his 34 felonies, I think that he's at edge. I think that people don't understand that not only has he naturally lost it, the man is looking at a sentencing date. I don't know why we keep avoiding the fact that we're talking about from debate to debate. The man doesn't know what the judge is going to do on the 18th. He may have to get permission from a parole officer to make the second debate if there is a second debate.
Almost 80-year-old man.
The almost 80-year-old man. He's got to live with that. And then talking about North Carolina, I think that not only has it changed, I spent some time in North Carolina last month. I preached at a church in Winston-Salem, Sir Walter Mack's church, and then I did the AME Zion convention. And I'm so sick of all of them asking me, am I bringing Joe Scarborough with me? He's not my deacon. He's a friend of mine. But I've talked to people in North Carolina. And what has happened also is this bizarre gubernatorial candidate the Republicans have, who's a black man who says blacks ought to be paying reparations to whites for taking care of us during slavery. This is literally a quote. That is going to help Kamala Harris immeasurably.
Yeah, it goes perfectly into our next story.
Well, it really does. And you look at, again, what Mike and Reverend Al say about a black woman debating him. You can really take black off of that and just say woman and see how much women get under his skin, how much Hillary Clinton got under his skin, how much E. Jean Carroll and her attorney got under his skin. It's really,
we know.
He's shown it throughout his life. And then you add the fact that she's a black woman, and I'm sure that makes it even more maddening for him.
So the Washington Post is highlighting what it's calling Donald Trump's laundry list of increasingly bizarre claims. Take a look at this. The Post's analysis reads, quote, "It's difficult to try and compare the relative ridiculousness of Trump's claims over time. But there is no question he has pushed the envelope in new and astonishing ways. Let's recap 10 of the most recent examples. Number one, his claim last week that a massive crowd at a rally for Vice President Kamala Harris, quote, didn't exist and nobody was there. Trump wrote on social media that photos and videos of the crowd were AI generated, which they were not. Number two, that President Joe Biden prepared to have the FBI assassinate him when it lawfully seized classified documents from Mar-a-Lago in 2022. Number three, that it's the Democrats and their messaging that's to blame for last month's attempted assassination of Trump. Let that breathe for a minute. Number 4, that Biden faked having COVID-19 last month in the days leading up to his withdrawal from the 2024 race. Number 5, that Trump was nearly in a helicopter crash with former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, after Brown insisted last week that the incident never happened. A different black lawmaker from California came forward to say it was him in the chopper with Trump, not the former mayor. Number 6, that Biden will try to reclaim the Democratic nomination at next week's Democratic National Convention. Number 7, that Harris only recently started identifying as black. Number 8, that the crowd at his rally on January 6th was bigger than the one Martin Luther King Jr. had for his famous I Have a Dream speech. Number 9, that other countries are emptying their prisons and sending criminals to the United States. And number 10, that the Democrats want to allow killing babies after birth.
Well, that's an oldie that they
an
lied
oldie
about,
but a sickie.
Lied about for a very long time. So, Jonathan Lemire, yesterday, Jonathan Chait wrote a column for New York Magazine talking about the real media bias and that it's not on the left against the right, against Donald Trump, that in fact it is the mainstream media desperate to just keep this narrative going that this is an election just like any other, that, you know, acting like it's Clinton versus Dole in 1996, ignoring these extraordinarily bizarre claims that would be disqualifying. And I've seen it time and again, a lot of people that sit around and, you know, oh my God, the media, it's so biased against Donald Trump. And then Donald Trump will go out and say that a crowd of 10,000, 15,000 doesn't exist and it's AI generated. And they'll just kind of sit there and then go, you know, when is Kamala Harris going to have her first sit-down interview with George Stephanopoulos? You're sitting there going, wait, don't we stop the presses on that? Don't we stop the presses when he makes up stories about Willie Brown and a helicopter crash? Don't we stop the presses? I mean, you could go down this list of 10 that Joe Biden is going, there's going to be a coup in Chicago and Joe Biden is going to be riding in on a white stallion with us. I mean, there's just, I exaggerate a bit on that one, but all of these things are just crazy. And yet the press will just take it in because they're so numb to it, and they'll go, what do you suspect her economic theory is going to be on quantitative easing? And when is she going to reveal it? It's just madness.
I think you hit a key word there, is numb. I think that the media and a lot of Americans have just grown used to the insane ramblings from Donald Trump. And I think sometimes that the media struggles to give them the coverage they deserve. Now, I think that the press has done better in 2024 than it did in 2016, to be sure. Progress has been made, but there's a long way to go. And part of it is because Trump is, as we've discussed on the show a lot, has this false fire hose of falsehoods. It's almost tough to keep track of everything that he does, to put it in the proper sort of context. I also think that, look, the mainstream, the media, and I won't speak for everyone, but certainly, you know, outlets have suggested this, that there is this perception that the media